So, anybody who's ever been cheated on can definitely attest to the fact that it doesn't feel good, no matter what your attachment style is. But what I found over time and working with so many clients in my practice is that different attachment styles actually get more deeply affected by being cheated on, primarily anxious, preoccupied attachment styles and fearful avoidance. So, in this video, we are going to talk about how to get over being cheated on. And I mean, like, how to really get over it, have closure, but also not let it be the wound that you carry into future relationships, not let it make you afraid in future relationships of opening up or letting people in or really bonding and connecting, and not having to be suspicious in future relationships either. And in order to do so, there's going to be five crucial things that we're going to go through. And the fifth one, the fifth step here, may be the most challenging, but also massively beneficial if you're really willing to be radically honest with yourself. So let's start with the first major component. The first thing you want to understand is that while cheating hurts because it violates needs and it violates the connection and the relationship sort of contract that we have with somebody, the actual real suffering from cheating actually is more in the stories we tell ourselves about the experience. Let me give you an example. I've had many clients who've come to me over the years and told me that they were cheated on and been really upset about it. But I can tell you one particular client who was cheated on, and I remember her being relatively unaffected by it. And when I asked her, "Hey, like, are you doing okay? What's going on?" I was kind of checking in to see if she was repressing her feelings. She said, "You know what? This is the experience that's causing us to like have to end a relationship that wasn't functional and wasn't working. And we weren't happy. Neither of us were really doing the work. We weren't compatible. We both knew that something like this was bound to happen because neither of us were showing up. So of course this happened." And she, of course, was not like in a happy place about it, but she wasn't distraught. And you could see there that there was an absence of stories compared to this is what normally happens. And this is what happens a lot with anxious preoccupieds the most, quite honestly. They will go, okay, this person cheated. And so if I was just more attractive, I wouldn't have been cheated on. If I was just more intelligent or had my career in a better place, I wouldn't have been cheated on. I'm not good enough, and that's why I was cheated on. I am unlovable, and that's why I was cheated on. Nobody's going to want to be with me in the future. And this person, if they ever loved or cared about me, wouldn't have done this. So they must have never loved and cared about me. And that's why I was cheated on. When we tell these stories, in other words, when we make these interpretations about the why behind this, a lot of our personal interpretation is actually based on our own core wounds from childhood. So if we felt, that we were unlovable in childhood because we took a comment to heart that a parent said one day, or if we felt like we weren't good enough because we had critical parents growing up, we have these pre-existing painful beliefs about ourselves, also known as core wounds, and then we project those onto the experience. And it will be painful to be cheated on, but it will cause suffering when we start telling stories about it, when we keep interpreting it in all these ways that actually cause this huge detriment to our own self-esteem. And so what you have to do is step one here is you've got to write out all of the stories. What are all the things you're telling yourself about why you were cheated on? Write them out, and you have to sit with each one and be like, can I really know this is true? Can I really know this? Can I really know that if I was more attractive, I wouldn't have been cheated on? Could it be something other than this that caused the relationship to break apart this way? Could it be that that person had a lot of emotional unavailability, or they weren't communicating their needs, or they had a whole bunch of wounds from their past and they were afraid and they were sabotaging, or we weren't compatible, or we weren't communicating well? Like, can you challenge and see what it could be other than the story you're telling yourself? And as you sit with each of those concepts, it will actually help you to create relief layer by layer, story by story, as you start equilibrating these ideas. And it's a huge part of really building that momentum to get over being cheated on. The next step is that we go through pain and suffering because we are used to getting our needs met through our partner, right? Our partner ends up being our primary attachment figure as an adult. And we get used to getting needs met from them. And so when somebody cheats, if the relationship breaks apart, we either don't feel like we can get those needs met again, or we're kind of like grieving that loss of that connection and those needs being met. So the next step here is you have to write out all the needs that this person was meeting that cheated. What were all the needs? And you have to get good at meeting those needs in the relationship to yourself and finding other healthy figures in your life who will meet them. So if your partner made you feel seen or important, or you had fun with them, or there was novelty, Write out all the things. What did they bring into your life? And you're going to have to come up with strategies to meet those needs on your own and with others going forward. And it's going to fill up. Like when we grieve a relationship, what's going to end up happening is, we're grieving the void of those needs being met that we were used to having met through that person. So as we start doing that work, we're also going to heal that void. Okay. So we've got step one, work through your story. Step two, work through your needs. Step three, you have to communicate through closure. Like you have to decide what it is that you need to really close out the relationship dynamic, whether that is letting the person know that you forgive them, whether that is letting the person know that you don't want to hear from them again. You have to decide what your boundaries are essentially around what just happened, and you have to stick to them for the sake of yourself. So if you're like, I know I need no contact with this person to get over them, to process, to be able to move on, you have to tune into yourself, decide what those boundaries really are, and honor them. Okay. And what you're also going to have to do is, this brings me to step four, is you're going to have to make sure that the things that you saw as red flags about this person, maybe leading up to that moment, or in terms of the relationship dynamic as a whole, you are going to have to promise yourself that you are going to vet different people in the future to make sure they don't have those things. And what you're essentially doing, what I mean by vet is like, let's say that early on in the relationship, your partner was really funny with their phone. Maybe you saw that they would always like hide their phone, not be open with it, be texting late at night. And maybe you saw these things as red flags, but you kind of like set them to rest, or you ignored them or avoided them or shut them down. Or maybe you just saw that like certain aspects of your partner's personality, maybe they were really commitment fearing, or maybe they had a lot of wounds from past relationships and experiences. Part of not taking that forward into future relationships. So, like, once you've worked through your stories, you don't feel not good enough or unlovable. You fill the void of your needs. You set the boundaries with that past relationship. When we talk about moving into the future, right? So you're not taking it to future relationships, you're going to have to honor that, hey, there were certain red flags that I saw in this past partner who did these things. And I'm going to honor myself by vetting for that in the future. I'm going to ask tough questions. I'm going to see if somebody's open with their phone. Maybe transparency is an important quality you look for in future relationships. So you want to essentially identify what you didn't like about that past relationship dynamic, and either ask the tough questions or just vet, like take the time to really get to know somebody before making a commitment in the future, to see, do they have qualities that are more green flag oriented than red flag oriented. And if there's things that you don't like that you're seeing, make sure you address them head on by having a conversation with that person earlier on in the relationship dynamic, so you don't end up kind of like up the creek without a paddle, or in other words, seeing that later on into a relationship you're like, oh, why did I not pay more attention to that earlier? And so that may be like, if you, for example, maybe your past partner cheated in every past relationship, like that's a big red flag. You would have to see that, there's tons of inner work that they've been doing, or a lot of accountability they've been taking, or a lot of maturing they've done, so that you don't have that happen again, right? You want to make sure you see that and you're like, okay, for this red flag to be green, I have to see that there's a lot of shifts and changes and maturity that have been taking place since this person was in a past relationship where they cheated on their partner. So you're essentially vetting for yourself. And in doing that, you're honoring yourself and you're honoring your standards going into future relationships. And then last but not least, okay, this is a really hard one for people. And I respect if you want to skip this one. But if you are willing to be radically honest with yourself, you can ask yourself this question: how did this person cheating on me serve me in some way? And this tends to kind of put the icing on the cake, because it allows us to see that although pain is painful, pain sometimes brings us hidden blessings. And a lot of times when I've had these conversations with clients, people would say things to me like, oh, I actually got to leave a relationship that wasn't working for me. Or, you know what, I learned that part of why this happened is we weren't communicating effectively. So I learned to communicate better for future relationships. Or, in this dynamic, I saw that this person cheating on me was actually a mirror into all the ways I cheated myself in relationships by not speaking up for my needs, or protecting my boundaries, or communicating my standards. Sometimes when we're willing to look, we see these really big hidden blessings. And I think that one of the sort of dysfunctions we have nowadays in society is that we're so afraid of pain. We're so scared to feel pain. Without pain, we don't necessarily grow in the same way. Grow Pain allows us to grow. Pain allows us to learn those really deep, really hard, really powerful lessons that propel us to mature and evolve as people. And so when we're willing to look for those hidden benefits, it doesn't mean that we're invalidating that there was a lot of pain, right? Because there was. It's never going to be fun or nice to have the experience of being cheated on. But when you're willing to look for the hidden blessings, the hidden benefits, sometimes it helps us A, not fear pain so much. And B, find the things in the experience that we want to take with us for the rest of our lives. Really clearly see that, wow, I learned to stop betraying myself. And that's something I want to remember and carry forth into all of my future relationships, and a lesson that I want to honor. So you can ask yourself that question: are there hidden benefits or hidden blessings, or were there lessons I took away from this experience, as hard and as difficult as it was? And that can really help be that final seal around closure. So, if you want to do a much deeper dive into this, we actually have a whole course all about rebuilding trust and overcoming jealousy. And it really digs into a lot of these core principles. It adds a few other ones. And it really, the goal is that, you have 7 days to get through it for free. You can use the link down below. And the goal is that you see these steps, and as you follow them in the exercises, you actually really evolve and work through broken trust and trust wounds in a short period of time. We talk a lot about overcoming your fragmented trust baseline, how to do that. We dive a little bit more deeply into the reprogramming exercises. So you can check that out for free for 7 days using the link down below. If you cancel before day 7, you'll never be charged anything. And you can go in there and you can actually explore the whole school if you want to check it out, join a webinar, anything like that. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying this channel. And I can't wait to see you in future videos.